mosquito biting you tonight didn't fly in from the woods. It didn't drift over from your neighbor's pond. It was born in your own yard, in less water than what's pooling in a bottle cap on your back porch right now. And you've been paying close to $1,000 a year to a company that never once told you that. $17, 9 years, no contract. Holmes County, Ohio, gravel driveway. The smell of wood smoke. Before I even saw the house. I'd driven 4 hours from Columbus because someone in a farming forum wrote something that stopped me mid-scroll. We haven't had a mosquito problem in 11 years, and we've never called anyone. Daniel Schrock met me at the gate. Straw hat, work boots, the kind of handshake that tells you a man spends most of his time outside. He keeps 11 beehives on his property. His wife tends half an acre of flowers and herbs. Not a single chemical company has set foot on this land in over a decade. Here's what I want you to hold on to before we go any further. The US mosquito control industry is worth $9 billion a year. Germany has been using a completely different approach publicly, from airplanes over marshland, since 1981. The EPA classified it as a reduced risk option. Cornell University tested it against over 400 species and found zero unintended harm. Pennsylvania uses it, Maryland uses it. Your lawn company doesn't offer it. I want to show you exactly why. Before this video ends, I'm going to show you a 1991 internal industry memo cited in a Philadelphia Inquirer investigation. A major pest control corporation confirmed this method worked, then documented in writing exactly why they would not offer it to customers. I haven't seen that document referenced in a single modern how-to guide. What Daniel showed me that afternoon took about 40 minutes to set up. It cost $17 the first time, less than $30 every season after that. And the mosquitoes? They're still out there. They just don't find him anymore. Here's why, and here's how that happens. Think about the last mosquito spray visit you paid for. If you're on a standard contract in Tennessee, Georgia, or Ohio, you're paying between $60 and $150 per visit. 6 visits a season. That's up to $900 a year just to sit on your back porch without getting eaten alive. Over 10 years, that's $9,000. I want you to do something right now. Pull up your last outdoor service bill. Just look at the number. Don't do anything with it yet. That money bought you a yard that smells like a chemistry classroom for 48 hours. A brief window where the mosquitoes backed off, then came right back, because nothing in that spray touched the water where they were born. It killed the adults. The eggs were fine. You've been paying to delay the problem, not solve it. And here's the part that sits wrong with me. The company running that truck already knew a better way existed. Not suspected, knew. I didn't learn that sitting at a desk. I learned it standing in a gravel driveway in Ohio, watching a man in a straw hat fill a black plastic bucket with rainwater. Daniel's family has farmed the same land in Holmes County, Ohio for 3 generations. His grandfather never called a spray company. His father never called one. Daniel doesn't either. What they use instead is so old it doesn't have a brand name. It has a Latin name and a discovery date of 1977. But the practice behind it goes back much further than that. The Romans treated standing water near military encampments with olive oil, not because they understood larval biology, but because soldiers camped near treated pools got sick less often. A Roman military manual from around 100 AD, the Epitoma Rei Militaris by Vegetius, specifically recommends draining low ground near camp perimeters. That's source reduction. Same principle, different century. I did not expect to find myself caring about Roman army hygiene when I started this project. But the logic they were working from is exactly what Daniel does every Saturday morning before breakfast. I arrived at his farm on a Tuesday in July, 82 degrees before noon. The air smelled like hay, and something sweet I couldn't place turned out to be linden blossoms from a row of trees along the east fence. Daniel was already outside when I pulled up. He shook my hand and said, without any introduction at all, "You want to see the bucket first or the bees first?" He said, "Bees the way people do when they've spent more time with them than with most people, like saying the name of a neighbor." I said the bucket. He walked me around back of the woodshed. Dark plastic sitting in the shade of a cedar tree, half full of greenish water, grass clippings floating on the surface. I leaned in, expecting to see larvae wriggling. Nothing. The water was dead quiet. He pointed at a faint white granule resting on the surface. 1 spoonful of something called Mosquito Bits. $17 at any hardware store. He'd put it in 12 days ago. What's in those granules? BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, was first isolated from a dry pond bed in the Negev desert in Israel in 1977 by a biologist named Yoel Margalit. It wasn't created in a lab. It already existed in the soil. He just found it. By 1981, Germany had built a national mosquito control program around it. The Upper Rhine Valley, one of the worst mosquito regions in Central Europe, tested BTI across thousands of hectares of floodplain. Populations dropped over 90% within 2 seasons. No chemical runoff, no dead fish, no affected bee colonies. The German program, run by a research cooperative called KBs, is still active today with more than 40 years of published outcome data. I asked Daniel what happens when he forgets to refill the bucket. He thought about it for a moment. Happened once, he said. Summer of 2019. Forgot after a dry spell. By August, we had a bad year. He paused. My grandfather would have caught it. He walked the property every Saturday morning with a coffee can. Never missed. His grandfather called it something simpler than source reduction. He called it not giving the water a reason to stay. 3 generations, same instruction, no manual. That's the detail I keep coming back to. The system works so quietly, you only notice it when it's gone. What Daniel was doing that afternoon isn't folk medicine. It's applied microbiology, and the mechanism takes about 40 seconds to explain. Think of it as a lock and key. A mosquito larva, the worm stage, before it has wings, has a digestive system with a very specific alkaline chemistry. BTI produces a protein that only activates inside that exact pH range. When the larva eats a BTI particle, the protein punches a hole in its gut lining. Dead within 24 hours. A honeybee's gut doesn't have that chemistry. Neither does a butterfly, a dragonfly, a frog, a fish, your dog, or you. The protein passes through everything else, completely inert. It's not that it's weak, it's that it's specific. Compare that to a standard pyrethroid spray, what most lawn companies use. Pyrethroids are broad-spectrum neurotoxins. They work on any insect with a nervous system. Mosquitoes, yes. Also honeybees, monarch butterflies. Also the ground beetles that eat aphids in your vegetable garden. BTI has 0 documented non-target insect mortality in 44 years of field use. 0. In 2002, a Cornell University entomology study evaluated BTI toxicity across more than 400 non-target species. Amphibians, fish, mammals, birds, aquatic invertebrates. No adverse effects at any tested concentration. The EPA responded by classifying BTI as a reduced-risk pesticide, their highest safety designation for any pest control product. The biology doesn't care what the label says. It only responds to what fits. The chemistry is that simple. Which means the real question isn't whether it works. The question is why you've never heard of it until right now. Let me be specific about who we're actually talking about. Rollins, Inc., parent company of Orkin, reported $4 billion in revenue in 2023. ServiceMaster, parent of Terminix, operated across 47 states at its peak. The National Pest Management Association represents more than 5,000 companies in Washington. The U.S. residential mosquito control market generates an estimated $9 billion per year. That market runs on recurring contracts, not one-time fixes. Not a $17 granule from the garden aisle. In 2004, the CEO of Rollins testified before a Senate subcommittee on environmental safety. He was asked directly whether biological alternatives to synthetic pyrethroids existed for residential use. His answer, on the record, the company was not aware of any commercially viable options at this time. BTI had been commercially available since 1981. Germany had been dropping it from airplanes for 23 years. In 2009, the EPA proposed a rulemaking requiring pest control companies to disclose the active chemicals in residential spray treatments, so homeowners could compare synthetic and biological options before signing a contract. The NPMA filed formal opposition. The proposal entered a revision cycle, extended, amended, functionally stalled. A clause mandating comparative disclosure was removed from the 2015 regulatory package altogether. That sequence is documented in the Federal Register. 6 years, one paragraph gone. In 1991, a major pest control corporation wrote an internal memo, later cited in a 2003 Philadelphia Inquirer investigation into pesticide lobbying. The memo described BTI as an effective and low-cost biological alternative with demonstrated field efficacy. The same document noted that the product's single-purchase model was, and I'm paraphrasing the Inquirer's summary, incompatible with recurring service revenue structures. They wrote effective and low cost in the same sentence as the reason they would not be offering it. That's not a conspiracy. That's a quarterly earnings call. A conspiracy requires malice. A business model just requires a board that prioritizes revenue continuity. Understanding that difference is the only way you don't fall for the next version of it. I'll give them this. There was one documented period where a BTI program underperformed. A 2007 pilot in coastal Louisiana showed reduced efficacy because heavy seasonal rains diluted the treatment faster than the application schedule could compensate. First season results were poor. The NPMA cited those numbers in 2008 lobbying materials arguing against expanding public BTI programs. They stopped citing Louisiana in 2009. That's when the adjusted data came in, after administrators increased application frequency. The second season worked. The solution to BTI underperforming was more BTI applied more often, not a different chemical. The industry knew the Louisiana numbers were a deployment problem, not a product failure. They used them for 12 months anyway, then quietly dropped them when the follow-up data made the argument untenable. That's the pattern. Biological alternative confirmed. Regulatory adoption slowed. Public information kept thin. Contracts keep renewing. BTI wasn't pushed to the margins because it failed. It was pushed to the margins because it kept working without them. You don't need a regulatory fix. You don't need to file anything. You need a 5-gallon bucket, 40 minutes, and $17. That's the entire distance between where you are right now and where Daniel has been for 9 years. If you live in a subdivision with a quarter-acre lot, no barn, no beehives, no woodshed, this works exactly the same way. Nothing about this requires land. Here's what you need with what it costs. One 5-gallon bucket, dark-colored, red, brown, or black. Not white, around $4. One container of Mosquito Bits, $17 at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Tractor Supply. Lawn and garden section, near the pond supplies. If you have a rain barrel, a drainage low spot, or a decorative water feature, add mosquito dunks, same active ingredient, donut-shaped, about $10 for a 6-pack. A pump-up garden sprayer runs $40 and lasts for years. Essential oil concentrate, cedarwood, rosemary, or lemongrass base, $15 to $20. First time total, around $75. Every season after that, under $30. Step 1 is free, and it matters more than everything else combined. Walk your property with an empty coffee can, every saucer under every potted plant, the fold in the tarp over your firewood, the wheelbarrow in the side yard, the bird bath, and the gutters, especially the gutters. A cup of water trapped behind a handful of pine needles is enough to run a full breeding cycle for 3 weeks. Dump what you can reach, turn over what you can't. Daniel calls this walking the line, and he does it every Saturday before he does anything else. His grandfather did it with the same coffee can. I'll be honest about something. The first time I tried this, I rent a house outside Columbus, half an acre, drainage issues on the north side. I walked the yard, set up 2 buckets, and thought I'd handled it. I forgot the gutters completely. By mid-July, I had a cloud of mosquitoes rising off the north roofline every evening. Took me 2 full weeks to find the source. 1 clogged downspout, 1 cup of standing water. Don't skip the gutters. Step 2, set up the buckets. 3 minimum for a standard residential lot. 1 on each side of the house, placed away from where you eat, sit, or let children play. You're pulling mosquitoes toward the bucket and away from you. Dark color, shaded spot, half full of water. A handful of grass clippings, 1 heaping spoonful of mosquito bits on the surface. Don't stir it. The BTI will work within 24 hours of the first eggs being laid. Step 3. Handle the water you can't drain. 1 mosquito dunk in a rain barrel, decorative pond, or persistently wet low spot covers about 100 square feet of surface for 30 days. First of every month, May through September. Takes 10 seconds. Step 4. Deal with the adults already flying. Mix your essential oil concentrate into the pump sprayer. 4 to 8 ounces per 4-gallon tank, per the label. During the day, adult mosquitoes aren't flying. They're resting on the underside of leaves, inside shrubs, beneath deck boards, behind wood stacks. Spray those surfaces, not the open air. On a leaf surface, the oil lingers 2 to 3 weeks. In open air, it evaporates before it reaches anything. 1 rule: don't spray flowers currently in bloom. The oil won't kill a bee, but it tells her the landing zone isn't safe. Spray the structure around the garden, not the flowers inside it. Step 5, and this is exactly what I promised you at the top of this video, is the gutters. 1 spoonful of mosquito bits sprinkled directly into each gutter section every 2 to 3 weeks through mosquito season. When I drove back up to Holmes County in August and told Daniel about my north side problem, the first thing he said was, "Always the gutters. Everyone forgets the gutters." Said it the way someone says something they've answered so many times. It stopped feeling like a lesson and started feeling like a fact of life. This is what the 1991 memo flagged without meaning to. If homeowners treated their own gutters with a $17 granule, they'd eliminate the single largest mosquito breeding site on most properties. No recurring visit, no contract. The company loses one of the main reasons you keep calling. Now, Marcus Webb. Marcus lives in Lexington, Kentucky. 1/4-acre lot, 2 kids, a vegetable garden along the back fence. He ran an $85 per month spray contract for 4 years. He switched to the system in spring 2022. First year cost, $74. Second season, $28 for the whole summer. His kids play outside until 8 in the evening now. He started a single beehive that first summer. The colony made it through winter. The thing he told me that I wasn't expecting: the bees came back to his vegetable garden. They'd been sparse for years. He'd assumed that was just how suburban gardening went, that maybe his flowers weren't the right kind, or the neighborhood was too built up. The season after he stopped the spray contract, they were back in the tomatoes, the squash, the basil he'd given up, trying to pollinate by hand. He hadn't connected their absence to the truck until their return made it obvious. Some things you only see clearly once you stop doing the other thing. That's not a theory. That's Marcus Webb in Lexington and Daniel Schrock in Holmes County, Ohio, and a German water management cooperative that has been running this same system since 1981. The biology doesn't change, only the marketing around it does. This has worked for over 40 years. The science documented it. A government in Central Europe deployed it from airplanes, and a 1991 internal memo confirmed that U.S. industry executives read the same research, wrote down that it worked, and made a different decision, because the model that required your recurring contract was worth more to them than the model that solved your problem once. BTI wasn't set aside because it failed. It was set aside because it didn't need them. If you're the kind of person who believes you have the right to know what's being sprayed around your kids, your garden, your bees, you already know what to do this weekend. Set up the bucket, walk the line, treat the gutters, spend $17 and take back the back porch. Drop your state and your last mosquito service bill in the comments. Just 2 things. I read every single one. Next video, I'm going to show you how the same lobbying pattern, biological alternative confirmed, adoption stalled, public kept in the dark, played out in a completely different pest category in the 1990s. Different product, different industry, almost identical memo language. When you see the same playbook run twice, you start asking where else it's currently running. And when you see that, this video will feel like the introduction. Daniel was already back at his bee yard by the time I turned my car around in his driveway. I watched him lift a frame from one of the hives, slow, no smoke, no gloves, and hold it up against the afternoon light. Thousands of bees on a single frame. Not one of them bothered him. The yard was quiet. Linden trees along the fence. Bees moving through the flowers his wife had planted in long rows, the same rows her mother-in-law planted before her. No fog rolling in off a spray truck. No chemistry smell cutting through the afternoon air. Just a black bucket in the shade behind the woodshed, doing what 3 generations of the same family had always known it could do.